The Hyundai Kona EV versus the Niro EV. Which electric SUV is better? I'm Jonathan Stewart, and welcome to Cleanerwatt. The Hyundai Kona and the Kia e-Niro are maybe two of the most underrated electric vehicles on the market. Both vehicles are well priced compared to competition and offer pretty good efficiency. What's even more impressive about each one of these vehicles is they are not built on an EV exclusive platform, but rather they actually are built on a gas-burning, an ICE platform, and they are still very efficient. Let's take a moment and compare these two SUVs and see which one is actually the better vehicle. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about the trim levels, the vehicles available, and the purchase cost between these two SUVs. The Kia Niro EV, or some people call it the e-Niro, is available in two different trim levels. You can either buy it in the EX trim level or the EX Premium trim level. The EX trim level starts at about $38,500, and the EX Premium trim level goes up to about $44,590. The Kona EV is available in three trim levels, starting with the SEL trim level, moving to the Limited trim level, and up to the Ultimate trim level. The SEL trim level starts at about $37,190 for the Kona EV, and the Ultimate trim level is $45,400. So as you can see, these vehicles have very similar pricing, but to figure out the actual value, I think it's important to calculate the cost per mile of range for each of these vehicles. And as you can see from this chart, the Kona EV in the select trim level has the lowest cost per mile of range at $144.14. So to calculate the cost per mile of range, you simply take the cost of the vehicle divided by the EPA rated range, and you get the cost that you're paying per mile of range. So if you dive just a little further into the purchase cost of these two SUVs and figure out the monthly payment, the actual financing cost, and figures like that, if you take a look at this chart, you'll see there that there is a slight difference between the two. The Niro is just slightly more expensive on the purchase end, which will end up costing you a little bit more in sales tax. If you put $5,000 down and you finance them for 6 years at a 3% interest rate, you'll see there that you'll save $21 a month in your monthly payment with the Kona EV, and also you'll save a little bit in your financing cost over the 6 years. So as we can see, the Kia e-Niro is just a little bit more expensive, but is it worth the extra cost, or is the Hyundai Kona a better deal? Let's take a look at the features, let's take a look at the performance, efficiency, etc., and really determine if the price difference is worth it for the e-Niro. One of the big things to look at is what features come standard at each trim level. And so I'm going to be comparing these vehicles starting once again with a very base level, the cheapest options you can get, and see what comes included. So both vehicles have automatic braking and lane keep assist safety features built in at even the base trim level. If you want smart cruise control, however, you have to move up to the Ultimate trim level for the Kona EV, but that comes standard at the base level of the e-Niro. If you would like heated front seats, that is included at the base level of the Kona EV, but if you would like that in the e-Niro, you have to move up to the premium package. The Kona EV does have a heads-up display, but only at the highest trim level. For either vehicle, if you would like wireless phone charging, you do have to move up to a higher trim level. However, Android and Apple CarPlay are both included in both vehicles at the base trim level. If you like GPS navigation built in your vehicle, once again, you have to move up to the highest trim level for either vehicle. Premium audio systems also require the highest trim level for either cars. And if you like the parking assist sensors, which let you know when you're getting too close to the object in front of you, beside you, or behind you, that is also only available in the highest trim levels of each of these vehicles. Now let's dive into the dimensions of the vehicle and take a look at both the interior and exterior dimensions, as well as how much cargo space each one of these vehicles offer. When you compare the exterior dimensions of the Niro versus the Kona, you'll see that the Niro is a little bit bigger vehicle, 7.6 inches longer, 0.2 inches wider, 0.2 inches higher, and 3.9 inches bigger in the wheelbase. The ground clearance is ever so slightly lower for the e-Niro, but in all practical purposes, it's basically the same. Obviously, since the Niro is bigger in the exterior, the interior dimensions are also going to be a little bigger. So when you do a side-by-side comparison for headroom, legroom, and shoulder room, you'll see that the Niro generally has more space than the Kona EV. The Niro has half an inch more headroom in the front seat and has equal headroom in the rear seat. If you take a look at the legroom difference between the two vehicles, you'll see that the Niro has 0.2 inches more legroom in the front seat and 2.6 inches more legroom in the rear seat. That 2.6 inches is actually quite a substantial number and will definitely make a difference for comfort for your rear passengers. And then once again, in the front and rear seats of the Niro, you have just a little bit more shoulder room as well, 0.5 inches more in the front seat and 0.6 inches more in the rear seat. When it comes to the payload capacity and how much weight you can actually put into the SUVs, the Kia e-Niro has a slightly higher payload capacity, coming in at around 1,062 pounds. And then really one of the most important measurements in an SUV is how much cargo space the vehicle has. So when you compare these two vehicles, you can see that the Kona EV has a cargo space with the seats folded down of about 45.8 cubic feet of space, whereas the e-Niro moves up to 53 cubic feet of space with the seats folded down. Now let's examine the performance differences between the two vehicles. As we examine some of the performance data for each of these vehicles, do keep in mind that neither of these are made to be performance SUVs. They're not supposed to be sports cars or sports SUVs, but rather they're more of an economical SUV that still offers some pretty good features. Both of these vehicles have a top speed of around 104 miles per hour, and the Kona EV has a very slightly quicker 0 to 62 mile per hour time, coming in at about 7.6 seconds compared to the Niro's 7.8 seconds. Now let's take a look at another really important metric, and that is range and efficiency. Both of these vehicles feature a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack. However, the Kona EV offers a little bit more range because it is a little bit smaller vehicle, and they are able to get 250 miles of EPA rated range out of the Kona EV, where the e-Niro only gets 239 miles of range with that same battery. If you take this data and you calculate the watt hours per mile and the miles that you can drive per kilowatt hour, you'll see that the Kona is obviously a little bit more efficient SUV, coming in at 248 watt hours needed per mile, and it can travel 4.03 miles per kilowatt hour. This as compared to the slightly less efficient e-Niro, which consumes 268 watt hours per mile and can go 3.73 miles per kilowatt hour. So over the last months, I've done quite a few EV efficiency comparison videos, and these numbers are very respectable. Especially when you keep in mind that these platforms that these vehicles are built off of are not dedicated EV platforms, but they also have internal combustion engine variants for each of these vehicles. Usually that means you're sacrificing efficiency, but with these vehicles, that is not as much the case. It does make you question, though, how efficient could each of these vehicles be if they were redesigned on a dedicated platform? Now let's examine the charging speed differences between the vehicles. Both of these EVs have an identical max charging rate of 77 kilowatts and can go from a 10% state of charge to an 80% state of charge in about 44 minutes. However, the Kona EV, since it is a little bit more efficient of an SUV, it is able to get more miles per minute in charge time. So the Kona EV is able in that 44 minutes to add 180 miles of range, whereas the Niro is only able to add 167 miles of range. Lastly, let's examine the warranty of each of these vehicles and see which one offers a better warranty. So both the e-Niro and the Kona EV offer a 5-year, 60,000 mile comprehensive warranty. They also have the same powertrain warranty of 10 years or 100,000 miles. Where the Kona EV edges out the Niro is in its lifetime battery warranty for the original owner. The e-Niro simply offers a 10-year, 100,000 mile battery warranty. So here's how these vehicles stack up in this side-by-side comparison that we just did. The Hyundai Kona does have a slightly lower cost of ownership because of its efficiency and also slightly lower purchase price. When you compare the standard features between the two vehicles, I gave them a tie because it's a little bit of a give and take depending on which features are important for the end user. The Niro does have a little bit more passenger and cargo space, so that gets the win there. Although the performance of the vehicles were very similar, the Kona EV did slightly beat out the Niro in the 0 to 62 mile per hour time. And the Kona has a slightly better range and efficiency, which leads to a slight edge in the charging speed because it can add more miles per minute. And the lifetime warranty on the battery of the Hyundai Kona gives it the win on the warranty as well. So I guess really the last question to answer is, which SUV is better? Well, it seems like, in my opinion, the Kona is a little bit better value for what you get. Unless you actually need the extra cargo space offered in the Niro, or you just really like Kia as a brand, in my opinion, the Hyundai Kona is the better vehicle between these. If you live in the United States, both of these vehicles are also eligible for the full federal $7,500 tax rebate for electric vehicles. This brings the cost of ownership down even further and helps these vehicles become a lot more affordable than they already were. So while I do think the Hyundai Kona is a little bit better value, I think either EV is a good choice, and if you own either or you purchase either, I think you will be happy with them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something as well. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you did like the video, please consider clicking the like button so other people can find the video as well. Also, I do have a Patreon community, so if you'd like to find out more about supporting my efforts and to help me make more video content in the future, please check out the Patreon information in the description below. Thank you so much.